Good morning. I hope you're all well, and thanks for joining us for this session. This is how innovation is driving the no-code revolution. This is part of Innovation Week, so if you are tweeting this session, please use the hashtag Innovation Week. As you probably know, these sessions are pre-recorded this year, but I'm going to be around, so if you want to comment in the comments below, then I'll make sure to respond, and I'd love to have a bit of dialogue and conversation going on as we go through the slides. Thanks to Innovation Week for accepting this session. It's really great to have no code on the innovation in the innovation space. You can get a copy of these slides if you'd like to have a look through them by going to the bit.ly link that's on your screen. That's bit.ly, that's bit.ly/no-code-innovation-week. It's no-code-innovation-week. So, my name is Adam Hill, and I work for Sunderland Software City. Part of my role at Sunderland Software City is to lead on No Code Northeast, which I founded earlier this year, with the intention primarily to create a community, a thriving community, we hope, of enthusiasts and professionals working in the no-code space. You can follow me on Twitter at @adshill and follow No Code Northeast at @NoCode Northeast for more information. What is no code? It's a big question for anyone who's not come across it before. One of the first quotes I want to mention is Chris Wanstrath from who was formerly the CEO of GitHub. Obviously, GitHub being the biggest repository of code on the internet. And he said, the future of coding is no coding at all. While, as we'll talk about later, that doesn't mean that there's no use for coding anymore. By quite the opposite, in fact. But this is what we'll talk to and attest to through the session today. The first thing I'd like to do now is just show you a quick video.
Today, the world runs on code. Every text you send, every website you visit, every screen you swipe, it's all driven by code. Code that only a fraction of the world can even understand. And that's a problem. Imagine if only 1 out of every 400 people knew how to write. Think how many world-changing ideas would have never seen the light of day. We'd be stuck in the dark ages. And when it comes to software development, we kind of are. So what if, instead of writing hundreds of lines of code to add new features to your website, you could just design them directly on your website? What if you could create the next world-changing product without writing a single line of code? That's the future for creators, and it's about to change everything. It's time to unleash the power of software development to everyone by making it visual, so anyone can harness the power of code to build a website, an app, or an entire business without actually writing it. At Webflow, we're doing exactly that. We're empowering creators to design, build, and launch amazing things. No code required. Welcome to the future of software development. Welcome to the age of no code.
Used by Webflow, which is just one of the many no code platforms out there. But it's reflective, I think, of no code in general, hence why I wanted to share it. So as in terms of definition, a no-code development platform is a tool for building software and web applications without any coding. We're also going to talk a little bit through this presentation about low code. And low code, there's similarly tools that shouldn't, in the most part, require coding, but do give the ability to enhance your work, your application, or whatever you're developing with code. So low code and no code are separate things. They're different things, but they're part of the same space, which is the concept of using much less code than the standard software development. Another quote for you here, which is from Ryan Hoover. You no longer need to become a programmer to build things on the internet, empowering a new wave of makers from different backgrounds and perspectives. One of the concepts that no code has introduced is that people who weren't able to create things can now create things, and this is where I think it's got strong relevance with the innovation space. It's the ability to effectively create software, but without having any knowledge of coding or needing to be able to code. So this is my simplified history of cloud software. I'm just going to switch off my image for the moment while you can see this. So back in the 1990s, primarily, and this is my era, primarily we were dealing with flat files and hand-coded HTML to build web pages and websites. Everything was pretty much hand-coded. If you didn't know the code, you didn't know how to write the code, you literally couldn't really publish anything online. It wasn't very accessible, and you had to code all the different content. This is a very simplified version, but moving into the 2000s, generally the trend was to move more to content management, to custom software that could allow different people to do different things on the internet. So it wasn't just about the flat pages and the coded content that you could get before that. And content was able to be published by people who couldn't publish it before. And this was a real shift in how the web worked. And as soon as rich media like video and various other formats came along, the main phrase around this time in the internet was Web 2.0. And this was really about the idea that anyone could publish content. It didn't have to be someone who knew code. Moving forward into the 2010s, we saw software actually being developed that meant we could do a lot of what we did normally on our computers, downloading software or still buying it off the shelves. We actually could do a lot of that through software as a service online. So we saw things like Google's Workspace or Google G Suite as it was at the time. We saw things like Microsoft starting to move their platforms online. Many more platforms, completely new platforms with new capabilities, became available as software as a service. And this was mostly due to the fact that we had new frameworks, new APIs, new APIs is application programming interface, allowing different bits of software to talk to each other and access to those bits of software. And we saw a lot of new types of apps being developed, which were online applications. We obviously saw the introduction of the smartphone on large scale as well. So the applications were available on phones as well. Moving into the 2020s, what we're seeing now, much like that shift from coded content through to people being able to publish content. Likewise, now we're seeing apps being published in the 2010s to now apps being created by people who just need access to the internet effectively and some level of skills. So now we're looking at no code and low code and automation being readily available by anyone. Interestingly, no code as a concept, the ability to create things on the web and in other places has probably been around since the 1990s, but in different ways. Things back in the 2000s, as we talk about here in terms of WordPress, that's still around today and powers most of the web today, was a point-and-click interface that allowed you to do things without having to be able to know code. But the mix and the melting in with software as a service means that now these systems are pretty much available just by logging in. You don't have to set up anything. You don't need hosting or anything like that. It's just available all the time. Another sort of flashback in terms of previous no code software. Some people might remember is the likes of Dreamweaver that Adobe brought about, but most of these things disappeared or were not sort of widely adopted, other than WordPress and some of the other content management systems. It wasn't until the 2010s, 2020s that this no code started to come through, and really, as I say, grew into prevalence over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So no code tools are rapid to develop. So because you don't have to code them, you can develop them really quickly. But not only that, because a lot of the skills are put in the same place, so the functionality and the design will often be developed in the same space. You don't need complex and detailed workflows in terms of development, so things don't have to go from developers to designers. You can actually do it all from one person if you have the relevant skills. So there's various different statistics that go around, but you can be talking about something that took days, weeks even to develop in the past can now take you a few hours with some systems. So it's really rapid to develop. It's also affordable. It's not to say that no code or low code is always going to be sort of cheaper than coding from scratch, but the most part it is, because of the fact that it's so much quicker to develop with. So it tends to be that you can build applications for free pretty much, and then depending on the scale of what you're trying to do and how accessible it needs to be, the costs start to ramp up. But it is very much more affordable than investing tens of thousands of pounds in custom development for certain types of apps that it can produce. It's secure. Now, that's not to say all no-code and low-code apps are secure, because they depend a lot on the people who are developing them to actually understand what it is that they're developing, but they do tend to be more secure. And they're very stable because they're built in a SaaS environment. That means that, it's software as a service. So generally speaking, there's not bits of code that are going to go wrong or things that are going to break because of a plugin that you installed or so on and so forth. That does depend, as we'll talk about later, on the complexity that you develop your app in. The other really important thing about no code and low code is the integration. Now that people are using so much more SaaS, software as a service, and software online, like accounting packages like Xero or Sage, are now moving online. You've got your Office applications. You've got pretty much everything that everyone does these days can be done online. No code generally gives you, through one format or another, gives you access to be able to integrate with those systems, so you can join things together, automate things, create workflows, and generally make things a lot more integrated. So just looking at who uses no code and low code, there's a wide range of examples here, but one of the first I wanted to touch on was solopreneurs, which actually are rising quite considerably in the tech space because of no code, because this means that actually individuals can now literally have an idea, build the idea, sell the idea, and do everything on their own from wherever they want to do it from. There's many accounts online of founders literally taking on the big tech companies and selling off their companies for multi-million pounds or dollars, based on the fact that on something that they've built on their own and developed on their own. So it's a really exciting space in terms of solopreneurs. Tech startups can benefit hugely from no code, in the sense that they can develop MVPs and test ideas and even build launch ready technology at a much lower cost and much quicker than they could before. So you can test ideas out, give them a go, instead of investing huge amounts of money on custom code to only find that it doesn't work. So it's de-risking the investment for tech startups and giving them a head start in terms of understanding whether people are actually going to use their product. Digital agencies likewise can adopt this technology to be able to roll out the products and the tools that they provide their clients with on a faster basis. There's more templating, there's more options in terms of the types of applications that could be provided, and less need for big custom development teams, again driving down that cost. In-house IT teams are using no code and low code considerably in organizations of all sizes. Being able to effectively, if you've got basic IT understanding, you can now build an app for something rather than having to outsource that to the digital agencies or to others, with a relatively limited skill set and just understanding, the basics of database, of good design and workflows. So in-house IT teams are really starting to adopt digital as a means to cut costs and drive out new innovations within teams, within organizations, at a faster pace. It can be used in enterprise because, again, of those integrations. There's a ton of different ways that a no-code and low-code platform might be able to access or work with existing systems out there. And because they are stable and secure if used in the right way, then enterprise level access works as well. And most of the tools that are out there will have some kind of enterprise level of delivery. The public sector is also starting to use no code and low code, and even in one of our local authorities, Newcastle, they ran a whole project fairly recently, not only adopting a low code platform, but also took part of the community activity, which we'll talk again a bit later on. But the concept of building in public, so they actually developed this tool, but did it taking on input and feedback as they went, and giving updates on where they were and showing to the world where what was happening with the code and when. So as you can see, cross-sector no code and low code is becoming something that everyone's trying to take advantage of. So what can you do with no code? So one of the big ones is developing websites. Names you'll know in this space will be the likes of Squarespace or Wix. If anyone's tried to set up their own website, then on any of those platforms, then you'll know, generally speaking, it's a point and click exercise, and you can pretty much, if you can design it, if you can see it, then you can build it and then publish it, and you will be handheld through that process by those companies through a point and click interface. There are also smaller website systems like Card, and we'll go on to a few of these a bit later on. You can build out e-commerce. Shopify is probably one of the most famous e-commerce parts of WordPress. You can use WooCommerce and similar in WordPress as well, which allow you to, again, set up an online store using payment processors like Stripe, which, again, a point and click, really easy to set up. You register, you embed some security data, and you've got your own online shop without any developer or agency needing to be involved. Internal management tools we talked about in terms of internal teams, marketplaces that you can create, and native app development as well. So you can actually develop apps for Apple and Android devices through no code as well. So it's not just websites and web applications. So I'm going to go through a few different examples of these. Just to be really clear, I have no affiliation with any of these. There's some of the tools that I've tried, and just give a basic range of the types of things available, with some active screenshots in the most part. But I wanted to just give a bit of a feel for what these look like and what can happen visually, just so you can kind of see how it works. But there are thousands out there. As I'll show you a screenshot later, but there are thousands of tools out there. So these are just touching on just the very start of what's available. So first one I mentioned is Webflow. This is the tool that was mentioned in the video that you watched earlier on. Another video I've got later. They produce very good video content, but they've got a very good university as well. And Webflow is primarily a web design platform. You can see on the screenshot there that how easy it is to just move things around, change font sizes. It's being done in as they call it, a what you see is what you get editor. Anyone who's used WYSIWYG or what you see is what you get editors in the past would recognize that actually they've come a long way, because really what you see here is what you're getting. Whereas in the past, they often showed that the text would be in bold, but actually when you looked at it on the screen, it would be quite different. So Webflow is a very advanced in terms of the level of configuration you have at your fingertips. A very advanced website editor that has a wide range of applications. Moving on to database, Airtable is probably the most well known, but there are, as I say, a number of other database systems out there. Airtable allows you to, much like you would in, say, Google Sheets, collect data, but in the format that a database would be, rather than a spreadsheet. And what this is useful for is, while Airtable comes itself, as you can see there, with a range of different views, and you can view things in a calendar view, you can view things in list views, or you can view things in Kanban boards or cards, as you see there. Primarily, it is the data view that's useful, and also that's something that then can be accessed by other applications to be able to do different things with that data. So that database view you can see there can be accessed in other apps, and by pulling that data through, you can create an interface to interact with it. Notion is what I would say is more of a knowledge base application, but it's completely configurable and allows you to build what are effectively web pages. It has an app version and a web-based version, and it all interacts together. But this is primarily a way to publish information and to share and search information. It has databases in there that are completely configurable. You can set up as complex or as simple as you like. Again, you can synchronize those databases with other places, and you can create really easy to understand web pages and content that is easily searchable and categorized within in the way that your company would want. So you can create quite a complex database of knowledge for your organization or for you individually, fully customizable, all kinds of widgets and things you can use in there. That's Notion. Softer is one of the most popular of the sort of, I would say, more basic web application development. As a no-code platform, you can quickly and easily pull out blocks, as you could see in the image here, that you can add blocks, and those blocks will be made up of different in different ways for different things. But you can pull data from Airtable. Soon you'll be able to pull data from different places like Google Sheets as well. And Softer will then allow you to display that information, but provide logins, different kinds of searches, filter by different categories. And you can build up basically a custom application, web-based application that covers a lot of different cases. Just to mention, in terms of Softer, they also have a one-click option for what's called a progressive web app. So you can actually, people can actually feature that on the homepage on their phones, and you press a button, and it almost feels like a native app, even though it is actually accessing the web. One of the most advanced no-code tools that's out there is called Bubble. It's getting a lot of attention at the moment, and has received a huge amount of investment. And Bubble effectively allows you, it's a highly configurable, you pretty much say you could build anything in Bubble if you've got the background knowledge and have learned to use it. There is a higher learning curve with Bubble, but it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more opportunity to do exactly the app that you want than, say, Softer, which is more to be able to allow people to quickly and easily do it without any coding at all. Glide is a native app development. So what do we mean by native is for directly on an app that will go onto the App Store on your phone. So whether that's a Google phone or an Android phone or an Apple phone. They support and take care of things like submitting it to the App Store. As you can see there, you can access databases which primarily come from Google Sheets or similar, and allow you to literally point and click, and you can create an app that has maps on it, that has images in it, all sorts of stuff in a really easy format. Glide, a bit like Softer, is the sort of more basic version, in that it makes it as easy as possible to create the thing, but therefore has some restrictions in terms of the design. Adalo is a more complex version of Glide and gives you more settings and more ways that you can create your native app. Jotform is a form builder. You may have seen this one. It's you pull together forms of various different complexity, and these forms can be used also in other as forms by themselves with calculators, as you can see in the screenshot there. But also they could be used for embedding into your applications in terms of the previous apps that we looked at. So it could be into a Webflow website or embedded into a software application. But Jotform gives you huge flexibility in terms of the forms that you can build, and you can see there, while it isn't particularly complex, you can create full-on calculations. So you could create quite complex calculators that give you the output that you might want for your users, or capture information in forms that have conditional formatting, various other things. And Zapier is just the last one I want to mention as we go through this. Zapier is a automation tool and allows you to set up rules about what happens when you interlink things, data and things from various different applications. So when someone joins your software platform, for example, you might want to get them to be added to your MailChimp mailing list at the same time as they're added to your CRM, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned before, low-code, no-code is a huge ecosystem now, and it's still relatively in its infancy. But you can see there a list of the kind of tools that are out there, and it's a pretty huge list and always growing. So there's a lot to find out. You can see chatbots in there, customer service, software development tools, machine learning and artificial intelligence, business intelligence, web and mobile, which we talked a bit about, workflow automation, enterprise application development, and e-commerce, and even IoT, Internet of Things, and industrial automation. It's quite specialized stuff in there if you want to sort of dig into it all. And just to mention as well that no-code is moving into the immersive artificial intelligence and Web3 spaces. So it's really moving into the deep tech or the new tech that's coming out. So there's going to be no-code. You can literally develop immersive experience, AR experiences, and similar artificial reality. Augmented reality and artificial intelligence experiences using no-code tools. One mention I want to give is similar to what I talked about before, that's crucial in terms of some of the applications that are being used, is operation tooling. And this generally refers to where automations are used to kind of simplify the processes that you do in your business. So if your organization or business is working a lot with Excel documents, for example, you may use operation tooling in order to use different systems using no code that automate those processes, remove some of the chances of errors or issues, and basically get rid of Excel sheets and provide you with forms and interfaces and things that you can actually get instant feedback from. It could also be, in terms of operations side of things, integrating various tools together, like I talked about earlier on. So it might be that you're using Calendly to set up meetings, and at the same time, when people join your Calendly, you want them to join your mailing list. You want something to be created in your calendar, various different people invited. Someone signing off the time that is being spent meeting that person, and the file being sent to that person that gives them the onboarding information they need before the event. Operation tooling could effectively mean any number of both simple and complex processes. By 2024, low-code and no-code application development will be responsible for 65% of app development activity. This is from Gartner, and a really important sort of quote here from Gartner, or a point that they've made, is that the market demand for app development is growing at least 5 times faster than IT's capacity to deliver them. This is also where I think no code and low code is really coming to the fore at the moment. Basically, people tech teams aren't able to. There's not enough people who can deliver the tech programs and projects that people need to be delivered. What no code is starting to do is reduce the time that's spent on those programs, meaning that the skills gap becomes less of a problem. Some would say that there's artificially inflated salaries, and so this, in theory, could drive down the cost of digital, make it more accessible, make things happen faster, make it more integrated, allow people who work in the tech industry to do more in the advanced technology. But we'll come on to that a bit later on. But the growth of no code and low code will see a change in the tech sector, because coders are needed for different things. It's not to say they won't be there, and again, we'll come on to that in a moment. But there will be as much need, I would expect, for a lot of the skills around application and software development and website development, in terms of front-end development, designers, people who could do user experience, content designers. There'll be still a really necessary place for them, because otherwise everything's going to start not working, not being designed for the users, and not looking very nice. But when it comes to the code, the coders will see a different situation. It's my view that innovation is driving the no-code revolution, but I think it's interesting. I flipped this title a couple of times when submitting my talk, as to whether it's innovation driving the no-code revolution or the no-code revolution is driving innovation. I think it's both, to be quite frank. I think hopefully, as you've seen with some of the tools that I've demonstrated today and gone through, you can really see that this is new, and this is different, and people are really creating things that have just never been possible before. So just want to speak a little bit about how the no-code community are doing that. One of the areas is nurturing talent. And I think, just to mention, I come from an open source background where community was required, because this was software that was developed that only survived if you had lots of people working on it. So you had to build community around it. The no-code community doesn't have the same thing as such in terms of the way that the technology is developed, but the way in which the platforms are creating communities around themselves, and the way that the wider no-code community is sharing and working together. There's a huge amount of talent nurturing going on, and there's a lot of communities of learning, which are really helping people to get take the first steps and develop as they get further on in terms of nurturing their talent. So it's really exciting space in that sense. No code is absolutely crucially unleashing creativity. It's allowing people to do things that they just couldn't do before. And that means that designers can be designing an entire app from start to finish. They don't just have to do, the front end, as it were. They can actually build the back end as well. So it means that different people can do different things. People with technology experience can build the databases and have pre-made functional best practice user interfaces that they can access to be able to create their app. So it's unleashing a new wave of creativity in the development of software, and it's building relationships. People are building relationships across various platforms, across various different sort of disciplines within the software development space. So it's really exciting in terms of the relationships that are building up, because they're creating completely new ideas and developing new projects. And there's a real creation of a culture of innovation in the no-code community. Everyone's looking at, what are you going to develop next? There's a concept of developing out in the open, which means that people get to see the failures that people are having. People get to see the successes that people are having for inspiration. There's a real culture of trying new things, giving it a go and seeing it break. until you find that one innovation that hits the mark and is successful. So it's a really exciting space, I think. And I think if you look at what the platforms themselves are doing, all the ones I've mentioned today, but all of them in general, they're really pushing the boundaries and doing something exciting and interesting that is going to push on the software development space and allow us to do many more things in the future that we hadn't even imagined. So I'm just going to show you another video now, and then I'll come back after that.
No code to me is being able to build something without having to actually write the code. It's opened up a new set of tools, unlocking potential for anyone to start an idea.
No-code and low-code tools allow us to do real-time marketing and tell the stories that matter to people right now.
Going through all these stock sites, I just couldn't find diverse illustrations. I just felt like I wasn't being represented. Who's going to do this, or who's going to release this? Why not me?
Early March 2020, you started to switch from this is an obstacle that we have to get through to this is a reality that we have to live with. I think we hit a low as a team where it was almost like we ran out of gas. And when you hit that point where you're in the dark, you have to create your own light.
I woke up that morning and saw from Burger King a tweet on International Women's Day. We really think we should do something, but we have to do it today.
We knew that this was a pressing issue. People were feeling the pain of it right now, and we wanted to make a positive impact right away.
The company literally made a 180. People now were noticing, and my mind was just like...
I created a product that sparked conversation, that created action.
We leveraged no-code tools to create a platform where people could go to this website and leave messages of encouragement, positivity for frontline workers.
The results that we were getting were astronomical compared to the year before.
Eventually, you'll get to a place where you surround yourself with so many, smart and amazing people, and there is no risk of failure anymore.
No-code tools make it so that we don't have to worry about the how, and we get to worry about the what if.
I think we're going to see a lot more creatives coming out of places we didn't know had amazing people.
This is really going to change the game for us.
I hope you enjoyed that. That's another Webflow video. They do some really good ones, but I think it's really interesting to give some real life examples, particularly during the pandemic and over the last few years, what people have been able to do with no code. I just wanted to touch before I end, and hopefully we can have some more conversation in the comments. But I just wanted to touch on waxing lyrical about no code and the potential of low code and where it could be, and how it's going to transform the software industry. I want to be really clear that traditional software development is absolutely not dead. It's really important to stress this point. I think it's just that we're going to be seeing a shift in what the coders are doing and how therefore software development teams are formed. The first point is no code is code, right? It's not the fact that you don't need to know code to do it. You don't need to know code to know code. It's still being built with code, and someone has to create those systems, and they're becoming more and more complex systems. They're integrating with more and more different things, and that space it requires highly skilled coders to be able to engage with that. No code also is not always enough. It's with most no code tools at the moment, you can only go so far. Custom code also provides you complete control of IP if that's something that's required. But also for some of the more complex problems, there needs to be much more bespoke or much more specific solutions that potentially no code would not be the answer for. One other point with no code is that you do have, generally speaking, a level of vendor lock-in. Depending on what you're building, you may find yourself stuck with the with the no code provider that you decide to choose. That's why it's really important to assess which no code or low code platform you're planning to work with. And also check what they've got in terms of data export and getting your data out in case you did want to move across. There is an argument to say that you may be locked in with that one vendor, but because of the transferability of data, it will be relatively easy to set yourself up on a new platform, depending on the complexity of what it is that you've built. And likewise, you could also use the no-code tools to build an MVP and then build it as a custom coded project if capacity or whatever it might be becomes necessary later on. It's still maturing as a market. A lot of the tools I mentioned earlier on are still relatively at the early stage of their development compared to some of the more mature products. But yeah, it is a still maturing space, which means there's a lot of new products coming out. You have to try things before you invest with them and really understand if they're definitely going to meet your needs. And also in a maturing technology market, particularly, there's the chance that some products may fail. So it's important to bear that in mind in terms of the risks. It can get really messy, especially if you're dealing with a setup that involves, or a stack as we call it, that involves various different areas. So if you've got automations in there, a database system, a front end system, a mailing system to send the mails out, a bulk email system, and they're all interacting and doing different things at different times in complex ways, without good documentation, and sometimes even with good documentation, it gets really messy in terms of keeping a tab on what's going on in a way that often sort of purist code wouldn't. And also, you can lack in the same light some features. So in terms of being able to roll back code sets, being able to do automated testing, some of these things just aren't available yet in the no-code space and low-code spaces. It's not to say they won't be in the future, but they're certainly not there yet. So yeah, that's a few of the sort of things to watch out for in terms of no-code and where we're going. If you're interested in no-code and low-code and what it could mean for your organization, you can check out No Code Northeast, which is our user group, which is www.nocodenortheast.com. You can obviously do a search online for no codes. There's many different sites that will give you marketplaces where you can find no code suppliers. We'll tell you more about the different tools that are out there, and learning places where you can go and find out more by actually doing. And I'm just going to highlight a friend of ours at 100daysofnocode.com. And you can sign up free here for an email where you do 30 minutes a day, looking at no-code platforms for 100 days. And effectively, you should be able to, through that process, develop your own platform or app or whatever it might be. On top of that, you can also go for a 30-day bootcamp. That's a paid service. And they also have a monthly service which allows you access to all the resources and what have you. But 100 Days No Code, we have a number of people in our team who've either been through it or going through it at the moment, and it's very strong. And the community is fantastic, and they've got a strong community on Twitter and various other places. So yeah, there's lots of help if you need it. But so yeah, we can recommend 100daysnocode.com. And that's basically it for my talk. So if you would like to contact me, you can do so at adshill and at No Code Northeast on Twitter. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. And that's pretty much it. I hope that's been interesting in some way. And I look forward to hearing from you and hearing about your no-code adventures. Thanks a lot.